When I was a researcher, I actually dealt with the very important coupling between astrocytes, some cells in our brain, even more numerous than neurons. You know that when you think, love, or do something, you need glucose. Neurons work on glucose. Well, no, because my research within a much larger research at the university in Lausanne, we knew that we needed a specific transporter to help neurons absorb their own glucose. But the problem is, how did the neuron understand when glucose was needed? Astrocytes actually were able to measure the quantity of glutamate, which is the most important neurotransmitter we have in our brain. And this glutamate, when hitting an astrocyte, the astrocyte said, okay, there's an active synapses, hence I need glucose. Glucose was brought in, it was changed into lactate, and then lactate was made available to neurons, and hence, in the end, neurons could have energy to do whatever they needed. Very interesting, isn't it? When we tell something, are we transmitting notions as if we were Wikipedia, or are we performing a cultural act that is demonstrating that the advancement of knowledge changes the view of the world, the view of ourselves, and tries to explain something more about ourselves and the world? This is the value of science. The rest is made up by fundamental notions, very useful ones that are useful for that very slow advancement and that peer exchange. So let's not confuse them. You will be asked to tell about your researches, but starting from the point that I bored you before and you will bore other people. So let's be true to ourselves. How can we change this knowledge, which is fundamental, into something which is not that boring? The idea everyone has is, okay, yes, but if people are not informed about technological and scientific knowledge, how can they vote? We need democracy that must be aware about the contents, and we vote about everything on stem cells, climate change, nuclear plants. So people must be informed. Well, I don't think so. Well, no, yes, they must be informed, but not in the details.
You are represented, let's say, you represent the project that you are working on right now. So, on the other hand, you also have certain responsibilities. And in this case, we would like to give you some advice, although maybe the colleague Giovanni just said that you shouldn't give any advice, but we would like to give you some advice this evening. First of all, we think it's useful for you to contextualize the project that you represent in your video. So if you're talking about your dissertation or a project that you are doing in a certain way, a film project, for example, then it's also very important to really enhance the quality, to highlight the quality of your project. So if there are any particular innovative methodological aspects you are embracing, if you are involving partners on the territory, for example, to carry out your project, if there were any concrete applications after your research. So I think it's useful to convey all these messages that really show the idea of a university that proposes high-level, high-quality training and studies, innovative universities, and of course you, by means of your research, can show how innovative we are, because you can give this image where you have a very strong digital component, for example. Often you have interdisciplinary research projects even, and those are particularly interesting projects. And to us, it is important to convey the message as soon as we can in our communication. We always write that you should highlight the work of our students, the work of our graduates. We always try to put them in the forefront, and also the work of our alumni. And we try to be useful on the territory. Even Franklin University, which is a very international university, for example, they still are very linked to the territory. Even USI, USI, is very much a territorial university, although it is, of course, also international. So we are very much concerned about that. So maybe more for Franklin and USI or USI, I would say that it is important for us to enhance this national and international dimension at once.
I have to be a bit disruptive. Don't compile your video as if it were a tax return. Show your goals, show your emotions, because true talent is exposed through emotions about anything else. You're going to have an audience like what Mr. Pellegrini, Dr. Pellegrini, as a matter of fact, correctly said, that will not understand what you are going to say because I know nothing about your research field. So have all the information, but prove that you have the true talent of being able to communicate.
Just a couple of tricks, and regardless, of course, of the means that you're going to be using to talk to an audience, we think the first point that we put in our 10-point list is to be very, very prepared about your topic. That's the same trick that is true, of course, for you as university students when you go to exams. The more you know about that exam topic, the better will it go at the exam, but the better will it be also easier, to improvise. And this is true for moderation. There is no badly prepared moderation where you can really improvise. So you always need to know a little bit more about the topic to be able to improvise or to react if there's anything that you didn't expect. So I think also preparation has the purpose, as you were saying, Andrea, that you need to, it's about being passionate. The more you know about the topic, the more you study, the more can you convey your passion. Yes, preparation is very important, and also the time we have available is never infinite, so we also need to know how to select the information that we want to focus on. And you know perfectly well the topic of your dissertation or your research. So one of the challenges when you do the video is to select the information that you think is most attractive or most interesting and that you want to convey to an audience of reference. And this is also what Giovanni Pellegrini was talking about very well. So who are we talking to, right? Think about that. Are we talking to a public or an audience of specialists, or are we talking to journalists? Or in the past, we used to say, when we were journalists, we used to say, are we talking to the housewife from Voghera or to the postman or who, right? So is it a simple person I'm talking to, I want to tell my story to, or simple in the sense that it's not a person with our own competences? Then we need to tell it one way. We need to make the person interested and passionate about what we're saying, but we need to prepare very well to be able to reach that target, right?
This situation is due to the two nice gentlemen over there who told me you need to stay under the light, so it's kind of enlightening, la illuminazione, and so I cannot move. But the gentleman over there, the director, or the most powerful gentleman in the direction, allowed me to sit down. So I will stay like this. So kind of I feel much more comfortable speaking with you, and hopefully also those who are attending online can see my face. If not, as you can confirm, it's not a big damage. Okay, so let's think of several changes. Why is this important? So one example is what's happening right now here in this room. Another example is, think of what Michael McLuhan, those of you whose background is in communication might remember him. He was suggesting through a very strange phrase, the medium is the message. Okay, so what is the message which is deeply embedded in a channel we are using to get meanings across? So think of television, for instance. Think of the way cinema and television. So if you think of Netflix, for instance, movies, you are likely to find very few people in the same image than the number of people you can show on a big screen. Okay, so if you think of the dimensions of the screen, if you are shooting something having in mind the people watching it through their smartphones, you need to reconstruct the image in a way that it works also on a small screen.
So in 2016, we created this project, which had the purpose of adapting to new formats and new audiences, especially considering social media, since this was the place where young people, of course, usually use these contents. So as a public service, the first thing we did was we thought about an information format because we were interested in taking information to young people. And we did this by combining information and entertainment, as you heard in the video, so finding a very effective formula. Today, in fact, Spam is a very, very followed product by all the young people in Italian Switzerland. It has 11,500 followers on Instagram, 15,000 on Facebook, and all of them on target, and all from Italian Switzerland. So, I mean, this is almost half of our target that is covered this way. So if we take one by one all the young people in Switzerland, there are 25,000 in that age group in Italian Switzerland. So we reach almost all of them. And this is a 360-degree information with constant contact with the audience, and it has an extreme flexibility in terms of content and formats. We started with Facebook, then we went to Instagram, and then we went to Instagram TV, and the next step is going to be YouTube.
So company purpose. And this seems easy, and it's actually hard. The most important thing is to be able to describe in one sentence or one tweet, if you want, what the company actually does. And sometimes when we think about business ideas, we start coming up with like creative ideas, and I'm going to build an app that can do 10 things. And we think about features, but what we really think about is, what we should be thinking about is, why does this company exist? And so I'll just give you an example. If you're familiar with Uber, Uber's purpose is to make sure that you can move from point A to point B just by clicking on your phone. Or the company purpose of YouTube is that you can just go online and watch any video about anything at any time. So this is the most difficult part of the presentation. You should just describe in one simple sentence why you exist as a company. Then the second part is the problem. And usually people think that the creative process is about coming up with new things. But in reality, in business, the creative process is used to solve an existing problem. And you should always start with the problem. Too often we start with the solution. And so the first thing you need to describe is, what is the pain today? Like, there must be something that cannot be done easily that requires a company to be built. And again, if you take YouTube as an example, now we got used to it. But like 10 years ago, sharing videos online was incredibly difficult. So the pain at the time was just communicating with other people through video, and then a company like YouTube started. Or if you think about Airbnb, 10 years ago, it was really hard to rent a house somewhere to spend a few weeks on vacation. And now on Airbnb, you can just click and rent one. And so this